Today I'm going to give you guys a tour of my whole post-harvest area. This is a relatively new area. We built the lean-to here this year. We've had some new additions such as our greens bubbler and our packing tables here. Those are new things this year. Not much has changed since my book, but there are some updates, and we'll get into that now. That's coming up next on The Urban Farmer. First thing to point out that's very important in a post-harvest area. Well, first of all, what does post-harvest mean? Post-harvest means what happens after the harvest. So washing vegetables, drying them, packing them, all that kind of stuff that happens in an area like this. In a proper post-harvest station, you need to be sheltered from the sun. You don't necessarily need to be heated or enclosed, but you do need to be sheltered from the sun and the rain and the elements. Most farms operate on a seasonal basis, so this works for 90% of farms. So again, you need to have a good enclosed area that's shaded and sheltered from the elements. That's very important. So the first thing that I'm going to show you guys that's key to a post-harvest area is walk-in coolers. You need to have commercial refrigeration if you're going to run a commercial farm. This is important. A lot of people think they can do this with old refrigerators and put a bunch together. Technically you can, anything works, but it's a ton of work and it's not really worth the effort in my opinion, but that might be another subject for another time. Today I'm going to just carry on and show you the rest of the station. So we have two walk-in coolers. I like to have two, but you don't have to have two, you can have one. It's whatever suits your needs. But I like to have two because one runs 24/7 and then the other one just runs when we do big harvests. So we can turn that one off usually when we empty the cooler after our Friday deliveries and Saturday market. This one will stay off until maybe Wednesday the next week, and we can usually get by with our early orders with just the one cooler. So I like to have a walk-in cooler. The best thing about a walk-in cooler is you can put entire bins of produce in them, and that makes it a lot easier for your workflow, so you're not having to pack things or divide things up before they go in the cooler. You can just throw totes of product in there and then deal with them later. That's probably one of the biggest advantages of the walk-in cooler, though there are many others. Coming into our space here, this is a drying screen, so we use this for drying greens, and so there's some leftover greens here that were just dried, and ours folds up and down. So I like this because when we want to dry another type of green on here, I can just take this off. A little noisy, but it cleans off, and then it's clean for the next crop to go on there if it's a different type of green or whatever it is. So going on to here, this is our salad spinning machine. It's not much different from those big orange spinners you see, but you save the labor of cranking them, so that saves a ton of physical labor and a ton of time. That is connected to the third piece of equipment here, and I'll explain the workflow in a second, but this is our greens bubbler, and I have a whole other video on this, so you can check that out to see how it's used. I've explained in that video the top and bottom tank, it's all there, but to give you just a quick breakdown, the top tank, once we've washed a bunch of greens, drains down into a bottom tank that has a sump pump, which is a pump that's often in the basement of a house to pump out water if there's a flood or if you're below the traditional water level or something like that. That's what a sub pump would do. And so we just pump that water onto the edge of our property, and I just water perennials on my property with it, and it's dirty water, but I do have some filters in here, just different types of screens that I put around there's a bucket in there that catches water from the washing table, and then there's a pipe that goes down from the washing pit that filters through there. And again, you can check that other video out for more details on this. So the bubbler, I'll just fire it on. What the bubbler does is it just agitates the greens to remove the dirt, and all the dirt and slugs and bugs sink to the bottom. This saves us a ton of time because we used to hand wash greens, and I have a video on that too. You can see the way I used to do it. But this saves us a ton of time, because now that we sell to grocery stores, we wash all of our greens all the time. Whereas in previous years, we used to not wash our greens because our restaurant customers asked us not to, because they had to wash them in the kitchen anyways. So that's a whole other story, but we wash all of our greens now, and this is how we do it. So these three pieces of equipment are all connected. The bubbler, the spinner, and the dryer, they're all part of the same task, and they're all close to one another, because when we have greens that are ready to wash, they either come straight from the field or they've been in the cooler from the field. They go in here, they bubble. We use these nylon bags. I know these aren't the best thing to use. There's probably better ways to do this, and I'm working on that. But right now, we use these nylon bags. We take the greens out, we put them in there. The nylon bag then goes into the spinner, and all this is a modified washing machine where I've removed all of its functions except the spin. So I just put it on spin cycle and pull it on, and it spins. And that spins the greens, all the standing water off the greens. Then that bag goes onto the drying screen, gets dumped on there. We turn on these box fans, and then we also use this screen to sort. So we try to do most of the sorting on the drying phase because it's easier. We can see weeds and things like that easier than if we are in here. Though sometimes in really weedy scenarios, we do a bit of sorting in here as well, because some weeds float better than the crop. Depends on the weed. But most of the time we're doing it on there. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and then from the screen, those go back in a tote. They get weighed, they get labeled with some masking tape. We write down how much they weigh, the name of the crop, and we put a check mark next to it to signify that that crop has been processed. It's been handled, and now it's ready to pack. Most of the time what we do is we try to wash our greens the day before they get packed, because that way we have 24 hours for them to sit in the walk-in cooler, cool down, and any residual moisture kind of evaporates through the holes that we have in our totes. So the greens are nice and dry, but also nice and cool and still crisp. That's what we're looking for. So that is all for our washing greens. So the next part of washing is the washing table. And this is a super important piece of equipment for us. We could not do the amount of root vegetables that we do without this table. And again, I know there's root washers out there, there's better or different forms of appropriate technology that work, but we don't do that many roots, so this works very well for us. But we wash everything on here. Like my greens harvester is dirty, so I'm blasting off the blade. That kind of thing happens on the washing table. When we're soaking seeds for microgreens to plant, and then we're going to drain and rinse them, that happens on the washing table. Anything that involves wet work is done on the washing table. And the way my washing table is set up, and again, all the designs for this are in my book, even all the materials and the costs of all this stuff. But the washing table that I use is a little different than what a lot of other farmers do. This washing table is nothing new. I didn't even invent this. I didn't even invent the design that I have here. My old business partner John did. But what we have on this one is a pool liner underneath it, so that redirects the water into the catchment bin below my greens bubbler. So the catchment below the bubbler catches the water from the table and the bubbler itself. Again, the sub pump pumps it off the property or pumps it onto my trees. And that way it keeps it nice and clean in here, because many farmers that I've seen in the past, they have a washing table like this, and they just have it open-ended, and then all that water just goes on the ground. They might have gravel or wood chips beneath. And if that works for you, do what's best for you. But I've done that in the past, and it just makes a mucky, anaerobic, smelly mess beneath. And since it's a sheltered area, it's not like that ground dries out very quick, so that's why I like to have this all contained and clean somewhere else. So those 4 pieces of equipment, 5 including the coolers, are critical to a post-harvesting area. The next thing we're going to talk about is our packing area. And so, we've got tables here. We like to have our tables at waist height. That way, when we're packing, most people working on the farm are around the same height, anywhere between, 5, 6 to 6 feet. So this is a good enough area for the height of most of us working on the farm. And we have different types of stuff here. It's not the cleanest it's been, but this is where we pack, like we bag up things for the farmer's market. We pack boxes of produce for restaurants or whatever it is. So we've got bulk bags, like bags on rolls. So these are all recyclable plastic bags. So big bags like this are used for more bulk stuff. So these bags we can fit 2 pounds of greens in. So I sometimes sell things in a case lot of that size. So I can fit 6 pounds of radishes and turnips that are topped in a bag like that, or I can fit 2 pounds of greens that I sell like that. A bag like this we use at the farmer's market and for like smaller orders, like 1 pound of microgreens or things like that for restaurants. And the medium bag like this we use for bags of kale or chard, or just, you know, the odd thing that needs a bag that size. These bags here are the most common bags we use for restaurants. But the other bags we use for packing really big bulk orders are just these lawn and garden bags that are just clear plastic, and we use those as a liner to line our wax, like a wax paper or a wax cardboard box that we use. We recycle these, we get these from our grocery store customers, and we use those to pack big bulk orders. So if a restaurant wants 10 pounds of greens and we often sell a 10-pound case lot of greens, then we measure it out in a tote. So we'll just have our standard tote like this. This is I believe it's a 68-liter Rubbermaid tote. I'll talk more about those in a few minutes. We'll pre-weigh things in that, so we'll just label in the cooler 10 pounds of greens, 10 pounds of greens, so on and so forth. We'll just dump that into a bag like this and then put it in a wax paper box, close it up, label it, and then it's off to the restaurants. So that's mostly how we pack for restaurants. You know, I also get these tomato boxes from grocery stores that we recycle, and we pack tomatoes in those. So I sell restaurants 15-pound cases of those, of cherry tomatoes. And for farmers market packing, we're using smaller bags like this, so little bags in a box. So we'll be packing 1/4-pound bags of stuff or 5-ounce bags of stuff for the farmers market. We use a little machine like this, and there is no manufacturer on this machine. I bought these things locally. You can find these at any retail supply store. So this store that I get them from is called LizGen, and they're in Kelowna, and they're a store supplies store. So they sell stuff for retail stores or corner stores or grocery stores for packing supplies. You know, similar to Uline, but just a smaller a local store. And what this does is this replaces the twist tie. So we put a bag through here, and it just makes a little piece of plastic, and it closes the bag. And so it's really fast, because then we don't have to take a twist tie and do it by hand, which we used to do. So that's stuff regarding packing. We've got lots of little scales like this for weighing out bags for the market. Ones like this here too, just little digital scales. Also have analog scales. We usually keep the analog scales close to the cooler. So scales like this that we can zero really quickly. We can just change. So if a tote weighs 4 pounds, we just put it to -4 and then put the tote on, and we know how much product we have. We also have more of a heavy duty scale down there, which can handle up to 220 pounds. That's for if we've got like big totes of carrots that have just come off the field and we want to weigh them so we know what our harvest was. So that's most of the stuff regarding packing. I'm just kind of looking around and seeing what else we got here. We use these little paper pulp containers for putting our tomatoes in at the farmer's market. And stuff like this, you know, this isn't necessarily the packing area, but we use little measuring cups like this for measuring out microgreen seed. I keep all of my big microgreen seeds, like my peas and sunflowers and radish, all down here so that animals can't get them. It keeps them dry. They're in a nice shaded, cool area. That's really important for keeping microgreen seeds. And that's about it, but I'll explain my totes. Okay, so this little area here is at the front of our post-harvest area, and this is just where we keep all of our totes for packing in and harvesting and stuff. We use just standard Rubbermaid totes. So the one I showed you there, 68-liter, is the classic. One thing that Rubbermaid has done in the last couple of years is they stopped making good ones. This tote here is 8 years old, and it's in perfect condition. The newer totes that they're making are a lot lighter, because they used to weigh 4¼ pounds. Now they weigh 3½ pounds, and the plastic is a lot thinner, and you can see here you get tears in there, breaking points. They just get ragged on, and I'm a little disappointed in Rubbermaid for doing that. I mean, it's not too surprising. It's what a lot of companies do. It sucks because it just ends up being landfill. So I don't know if Rubbermaid still make the heavy duty ones. If somebody knows out there, if they do, I'd love to know where to get them, because I just order them, and I wouldn't bother buying them locally anymore, because all the ones available locally at Home Depot and Canadian Tire, places like that, are all this cheap plastic, and they don't even last a season. I've bought brand new ones this year. They're already broken at the handles. So anyways, regarding the totes, there's actually four totes I use. We use a small tote like this, and sometimes I use these for actually draining microgreens. This one has little holes drilled in it, but we use these ones for packing stuff to the market. So this can fit 12 4-ounce bags of greens. So usually that's what we're taking to market, is totes full like that. So those ones aren't used for harvesting ever. The big ones, like the ones I just showed you, these are most commonly used for harvesting. We don't really store product in them for very long. Once it's packed up, it's either delivered or it's in those small totes to go to a farmer's market. And then we have these medium totes. These ones are halfway between the shallow one here that I showed you and the bigger ones. Like, I call it a 3/4 size tote. I don't use those for too many things. I actually used to use these for washing greens, but now since we have a bubbler, I don't need them anymore. But they have the odd application here and there. And then we have mini totes, which are these guys. Same tote. Two of them fit on top of a regular size. Those I mostly use for soaking seeds or small things I take to the farmer's market, like bunches of herbs. If I'm just taking 10 of this or 10 of that, they might go in small totes like that. But the totes that we use a ton of and that take a real beating are these totes. They're called macro totes, and I really like these. It's a really good quality product, and I don't know where to get these anymore, unfortunately. But there's different types of totes out there like this, and yeah, these are really good because they're UV resistant. They last forever, and they're really bomber. Like, you can take them out in the field and really wreck them and even bend them, and they go back to their true form. So those are the 5 different types of totes we use on the farm. So that is the post-harvest area. If you guys have more questions and comments, please leave them below. If you want to see more stuff like this, hit the subscribe button right now. Like and share the videos with your friends. And for more detailed information of what I just showed you, my book has all this information in it, including how to build this stuff, the materials and all that. And my online course, profitability.com, has even greater details on how all of this stuff is used, even though you're getting a pretty good idea of it from YouTube here. But there is a ton of more content in my online course. You can check that out at profitability.com. And if you guys would like to make a donation to the show, it's much appreciated and always welcome. It allows me to take the time to make these kind of videos and purchase new camera equipment that helps me create better content for you. You can do that at theurbanfarmer.co/support. All right, see you soon.